Hey, welcome to the show. I am your host, Mike Hatch, and today I want to talk about money. For this devotional, looking back at our interview on Monday with Rick Newton, which was incredible. If you haven't checked it out, go back and listen to that. One of the things we talked a lot about was money and what is honest money versus dishonest or unjust money. The Bible would call it dishonest weights and measures versus honest or just weights and measures. And so we talked about that, and Rick alluded to the fact that we have a very corrupt monetary system, and I mentioned that in the previous devotional as well, that is kind of acts like a base layer, a corrupt base layer that infects everything else we build on top of that from an economical standpoint. And so today, for this devotional, I wanted to talk about money, but also how money is so much more than just the things that we think about it, that it's just a medium of exchange that facilitates trade. Redemptive Economics is completely listener-supported and dependent on the contributions of listeners. If you resonate with the message of Redemptive Economics and want to support the cause, there are 3 ways you can partner with us. The first is you can subscribe to the podcast for $5 a month and unlock all the amazing interviews and content without the interruption of advertisements. Secondly, you can donate to Redemptive Economics, either making a one-time gift or supporting monthly to help us offset the production costs and reach more people for the sake of the gospel. Lastly, if you're a business, you can choose to advertise with us. Right now, we're offering a limited number of spots for sponsorships for the first year at $150 per month or $1,800 for the year. I would be so grateful for your partnership. Check out the show notes for all the links that will lead to more information about how to support our mission to empower Christian entrepreneurs. It's so much deeper than that, and especially from a biblical perspective. And I'll lead with saying this. If you are a Christian, you are God's money. First, I want to talk about the things how money does function, the different ways to think about money. Because again, it can be a deep issue. So, of course, it's a medium of exchange. We know that. It's also, as you study the history of money, it tends to be a naturally arising tool used to transport value through time and space. And you've probably heard of these things before. Seashells have been used. Bones of certain animals have been used. Salt has been used. That's where we get the term salary. Thirdly, it is a form of energy or a claim on energy. And when you think about it, we exert energy to produce value, to work, whether it be for a boss or in our own business. Energy is being mobilized and exerted to accomplish a purpose or a mission. And then in exchange for that energy, we are paid money if people find value in the product that you produce via the energy you're exerting. And that money becomes a store or a claim on energy, which then you can go use to go buy oil or natural gas or pay for your electricity bill, whatever it is. You can convert energy, one form of energy, into a different form of energy using money as that transitional abstraction, if you will. So it's energy or a claim on energy. It's a store of life energy and value. When you think about it, what we do for a living reflects who we are. And there's only so much energy that we have in our life. Eventually our bodies break down, our heart stops beating, and we pass away, we die. And so we have a limited amount of energy that God has entrusted to us to use on His behalf. And so when we exert energy for production, it is a reflection of who we are. It's literally our essence manifested through a product of some sort. So like, for example, I took a ton of my life energy and invested it in building stairs going up the backside of the hill in my backyard. So those stairs are a reflection of me and my life energy as it was exerted to create that. TBD Bookkeeping is who I use for my bookkeeping needs, and I'm thrilled to recommend them to you. As business owners with 3 kids themselves, Ryan and Danielle Hatch understand the value of time and the importance of work-life balance. TBD Bookkeeping can take over the day-to-day bookkeeping of your business so you can focus more on growth, operations, and customer relationships. I can speak from experience. If you're a business owner, you need a bookkeeper, and TBD Bookkeeping is simply the best in the business. Find their contact information in the show notes, and when you mention Redemptive Economics, you'll receive 10% off your first 3 months. Call TBD Bookkeeping today and learn more about the benefits I've experienced: more time, peace of mind, and the ability to plan for the future. Money can also be a measure of value or wealth. It helps us understand what things are worth. By looking at the prices of the products that are available to us, we are able to determine the value. And lastly, money is a ledger. So you can think about your checkbook and the ledger that's in your checkbook, if you're old enough to remember checks. For those of you who don't deal with checks and don't know what I'm talking about, think about going online to your bank account and looking at the ledger, scrolling through your bank account and seeing the expenses and the deposits. That is an online version of a ledger. And money functions as a ledger as a whole. So it communicates where people find value, where money is being allotted to, and where money is being taken from, what industries are being invested in, what industries are not. You can look at the flow and the movement of money in the sense like a ledger to understand where value is either flowing to or flowing from. So there's a lot of ways to look at what money is and how it functions. And people talk about money being a network, and that's true too. We could investigate that. There's so many other ways that money can be thought of. It's a really deep, layered subject. And this is why God cares so deeply about just or honest money. And you see this in the book of Deuteronomy and Leviticus when he is setting up Israel to take over the land of Canaan, and he says, you will utilize just weights and measures, or honest or accurate weights and measures, not unjust or dishonest weights and measures. And what he's talking about is, yes, he is talking about, okay, when you measure grain and wheat and things like these, of course, or cattle, whatever, yes, he'd be honest about that. But that is also a description of money, because gold and silver bits or coins were used, and in order to validate the value or the quantity of that gold and silver, they would put it on a scale, and on one side you'd have the gold and silver, on the other side you'd have the weights. And you would have money changers that would determine the value of the gold and silver, people's money, for them. And sometimes those money changers would take advantage of them. They would fiddle with the weights in order so that they could skim off the top and steal value from other people. And when you think of money as being a representative of people's literally their life value, this is one of the reasons why God is so adamant about honest weights and measures. You're literally stealing someone's life value when you steal money from them. It is a very serious thing. But even then, it goes deeper than that. Again, what I said at the beginning was that we as Christians or God's people are his money. And I'm going to go to a couple scriptures here to make my case for you. And my hope is that this is a great encouragement to you, both as an individual, business owner, entrepreneur, but also as you look at your employees, vendors, the people that you're paying, that it's so much more than just giving them money. You are validating their life value, okay? That's a big deal because we have tremendous value, and we know this as Christians. We believe we are created in God's image, and then we have tremendous value. But as Christians, we have even greater value because he's deposited the Holy Spirit in us, okay? In Exodus chapter 13, after God has rescued Israel from Egypt, he says this to them. He says, you yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all the nations, you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Jeff Dougherty with Allstate Insurance has the distinction of being the very first sponsor of the Redemptive Economics podcast, and I couldn't be happier to promote his services. I've known Jeff for many years now, both as his pastor and friend, and man, I can say with confidence that he is a man of strong faith who aligns well with the Redemptive Economics values. So reach out to Jeff. He can offer you options for a wide variety of coverage and services. He's committed to helping Pittsburgh residents assess their immediate and long-term needs and choose options that will help you achieve your goals. When you want to explore options for protecting your home, personal property, or financial future, Jeff Dougherty is your guy. You'll find Jeff's contact information in the show notes. Hey, go grab a cup of coffee with him, get to know him, even if it's just to review your current coverage in case you need to make adjustments. And I promise you're going to love Jeff every bit as much as I do. Israel, God describes as his treasured possession. And that is a very unique term in the Old Testament. Walt Kaiser, an Old Testament scholar, professor, former president of Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, he talks about this way. He says, in this text, possession is translated from the Hebrew word segala, which referred to property that could be moved, as opposed to real estate that could not be moved. Accordingly, Israel was to be God's jewels, as noted in Malachi 3:17, his special treasure above all his other possessions. But they were to be treasures that he could move around and disperse as he pleased. That literally is a description of money. When you think about it, other than your physical possessions, what is the one most valuable thing to you? If you were to burn your whole house down and lose everything, hopefully you would say, I still have a fireproof safe that has some extra cash in it, or I've got a bank account that I could go to help replenish the goods that we lost in the fire, or you bought fire insurance, and the insurance will provide money to help replace the things. Now, I'm not going to, I understand that the things you lose in a fire, you can never replace. Okay, I get it. My point is that it's still, when it comes down to the very basic needs, money is one of the most valuable things that we have to be able to provide for ourselves. Okay? This passage in Exodus 19, God is saying the same thing about his people. He's saying, you are my most valuable possession. You are my money. Because when you think about it, one of the key aspects of what makes money valuable is that it's portable and it can be transported from one place to another with very little effort. So by virtue of the Holy Spirit, the value, literally the presence of God, an incalculable value that has been deposited into us as Christians, we now serve as God's treasured possession, as God's money. And he's using us, his people, as Christians, to be his store of value through time and space in order that he would gain an inheritance in the future in us, and that we would gain our inheritance through him. As we are exchanging value through money, it is so much more profound what's happening in that transaction than just facilitating the exchange of goods and services. I think in many ways, Satan has come in and deceived us and tried to reduce the value of what money really is. And so when you pay your employee, or when you pay for products from your vendor, and you have these relationships and you're exchanging value, a profound thing is happening there. I'll just use that as an example. When you pay your employee who's done work, they have galvanized energy from themselves and directed in such a way to produce value for you as their boss and for the customer that you're serving. They have devoted their life energy to you, and you pay them a representation, a claim check in money of the value that they exerted. That can be an incredibly affirming thing. It is one of the key ways that we as people are able to affirm each other and the value that we represent. All right. So I want you to remember today, first thing, you are incredibly valuable. You are God's money. You are the mode that he is using by virtue of his Holy Spirit to transport incalculable value through time and space for eternity. Number two, when you exchange value by paying your employees or vendors or whoever, partner, whatever, in money, you are validating the godly self-worth in every person that you exchange value with. And then lastly, look, money is so much more than just a simple facilitator of exchange of goods and services. It is a very good thing that we can use for incredibly redemptive purposes, and it's actually a reflection of God's redemptive work in this world. Money is a reflection of us. Money is a reflection of the value that God bestows in us and to us. Money is a reflection of the value in God himself in many ways. So remember, the next time you're tempted to dismiss the value of money in our economy, remember, you are God's money. Let's get to work!